Hello friends, James Stevenson updating you on Tesla's production and deliveries report that just came out earlier today. Without further ado, I will jump right into the deliveries report that was posted by Tesla Investor Relations earlier today. These get posted about noon Eastern Time on the second day of the month following each quarter end by Investor Relations. So here is Tesla's production and deliveries update. So it says in the third quarter we produced this many vehicles and delivered this many vehicles. So 22,000 more vehicles were produced than delivered. So that means Tesla's ending inventory balance rose by 22,000 vehicles. That's a lot more than usual. So they explain that. Historically, our delivery volumes have skewed toward the end of each quarter due to regional batch building of cars. I'll explain that in a minute. As our production volumes continue to grow, it is becoming increasingly challenging to secure vehicle transportation capacity at a reasonable cost during these peak logistics weeks. In Q3, we began transitioning to a more even regional mix of vehicle builds each week, which led to an increase in cars in transit at the end of the quarter. These cars have been ordered and will be delivered to customers upon arrival at their destination. All right, I'm going to explain what each of these sentences means. The first one here: historically, our delivery volumes have skewed towards the end of each quarter due to regional batch building of cars. They're saying the busiest month for Tesla to deliver cars has always been the third month of the quarter. Why would that be? Why would one of the months be busier than others for deliveries? It's because Tesla's approach to building cars was the wave. Those are quotation fingers for those of you who are audio-only listeners. The wave of deliveries meant that at the beginning of every quarter, Tesla built for buyers who had ordered cars farthest away. Whoever it would take the longest to ship a vehicle to and have it get delivered, got delivered first. Let's use Model S as an example. Only Fremont makes Model S. So at the beginning of each quarter, they would be building cars to put on ships to go whatever the longest trip was by ship. So if that was through the Panama Canal and to Belgium, and then onto a train or a truck to be delivered to some, far end of Europe, that's what they were making first, in order to maximize the odds that those vehicles would get to their buyers delivered and sale completed before the end of the quarter. You want to allow as much time as possible for whoever's the farthest away. Then as the quarter progresses, you stop making those and you start making deliveries for people who are relatively close. So maybe in the middle of the quarter, they were making Model S's for people who lived in Florida, let's say, because those vehicles still needed to be transported across the country to a delivery center before they could be delivered to their buyers. Then in the final month of the quarter, they would be producing for California. So people in California, in LA, let's say, would get their deliveries in the early part of the third month of the quarter. And then people in San Francisco or the greater San Francisco area would be taking delivery of their vehicles in the final week of the quarter. And they would be vehicles that just rolled off the line at Fremont. Literally, Tesla would have these midnight delivery events at the factory where you would take delivery of a car they made that day, right? The goal of all this was to minimize ending inventory, but there are downsides to this approach, one of which is the people who do deliveries are really busy in the third month of the quarter, and they're really slow in the other 2 months, right? That's not very efficient. If you work that job, it's not very comfortable to be working like crazy the whole final month of the quarter and then not having that much work to do in the other months. Another one is expedite costs. So Tesla would have to try to rush these deliveries to get to their buyers to make sure they were delivered before the end of the quarter. Again, trying to minimize ending inventory because that's good for your financials. Your financials look better when your ending inventory balance is low for that quarter anyway. But those additional kind of unnecessary shipping charges increase the cost to deliver each vehicle and decrease the amount of earnings per vehicle, right? So you'd be better off if you didn't care when the delivery took place, or you didn't care which fiscal quarter the delivery took place in, and you didn't pay those higher costs to try to rush those deliveries. All right, enough about that first sentence. The next one here that's highlighted, as our production volumes continue to grow, it's becoming increasingly challenging to secure vehicle transportation capacity at a reasonable cost during these peak logistics weeks. So this might mean RoRos, which are roll-on, roll-off ships, the most common way to ship cars overseas, or it might mean containers, or it might mean trucks, or, you know, whatever it means. Then in Q3, we began transitioning to a more even regional mix of vehicle builds each week, which led to an increase in cars in transit at the end of the quarter. Okay, so caring less about where the buyers were or how far away the vehicle needed to travel to get to its owner is what that is. The last sentence here, these cars have been ordered and will be delivered to customers upon arrival at their destination, is saying, hey, this is not a financial impact to be concerned about. This is just a timing flip between quarters. So instead of these getting delivered in Q3, they're going to get delivered in Q4. All of these cars are spoken for. They all have owners who configured and ordered them. They're just still in transit at the end of the quarter to get to their new owners. It's just a timing variance is what that says. Okay, so here's the table with all the numbers in it. Model S and X, they produced 19,935, delivered 18,672. So about 1,250 more vehicles produced than delivered, so that increases ending inventory. Model 3 and Model Y produced 345,988, only delivered 325,158, so 20,830 more vehicles produced than delivered, which is way, way above average, right? Analysts did not expect this. And the earnings release will happen on Wednesday, October 19th. That's when we get all the rest of the information besides just production and deliveries and this other number here. Subject to operating lease accounting, these percentages are telling you how many of these deliveries went to people who aren't buying the car outright. They're renting the car for, usually it's a 3-year period, and then giving them back to Tesla at the end of the lease period. So that makes more sense for some people, like people who have company car allowances through their job. Maybe their company wants them to drive a nice new looking vehicle, so they give them an allowance. And so they just use that to lease a new car every 3 years, right? That's what's going on there. A much lower percentage for the lower ASP vehicles and a higher percentage for the higher ASP vehicles. Makes sense. ASP is average selling price, revenue per vehicle. All right, so we'll get a lot more information at 4:30 p.m. Central, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time on October 19th. So how did the analysts do on these? Well, I just told you that the deliveries, everybody guessed way too high. The consensus was a little over 360,000 deliveries, something much closer to the number produced, right? Because people didn't expect ending inventory to grow by 20,000 versus where it began the quarter. Here's a tweet, let me scroll up here, from Matthias Fons at Holgerdonska9 with the Tesla Q3 Production and Delivery Analyst Estimates. He says, Piper Sandler was the closest on deliveries, still over by 2.96%, almost 3%. And then for production, I was pretty close. Variance of 0.01% on production. Let me make this bigger. So he has highlighted my production estimate here. 365,954. The actual number was 365,923. So I got really lucky. You obviously have to get extremely lucky to get that close. And I definitely did. The first rule of forecasting is whatever you forecast, it will be wrong, even if you're only wrong by 31 units. All right. So what else do I have for you? So here's last quarter's earnings release. So you can see on it what the production and deliveries were in prior quarters. And you can see on here the global vehicle inventory days of supply. This is where you can tell how much inventory was on hand at the end of each quarter. A 9-day supply means that on average, you know, how many vehicles do you deliver on average per day? There were 9 days worth of deliveries on hand at the end of Q2. That number fell and fell and fell and fell again. For Q3, expect this number to shoot up a lot. So this may go up to, I don't know, 7 or 8. We'll find out. I haven't done any calculations on that, so don't hold me to it. And what else do we have here? I also sent out this chart recently, so this is what Tesla deliveries look like over the past 9 years. If you look at the 12 trailing month total deliveries as of Q3 each year. So this number includes the deliveries that were just reported, 1,217,225 over the most recent 4 quarters, so Q4 of 21 through Q3 of 22. If you want to know what that number was last year, it was 808,239. How much of an increase is this? It's 50.6%. I think I've got that number right here. Sorry, this is a very ugly spreadsheet, but that's how you can know what the deliveries growth is. If Tesla wants to grow the 936,222 deliveries from last year by that same 50% growth assumption, they'll need to deliver 495,761 vehicles in Q4. That would be very tough, but it's not impossible with Shanghai at full strength, operating for the full quarter after the efficiency upgrades that they made that shut them down for a couple of weeks in Q3, and with Austin and Berlin still ramping up. Berlin, we know, just past 2,000 vehicles produced per week. So that is all I have for you in this video. If you've enjoyed today's video, click the like button. It's free to click the like button. You can also click the subscribe button, which is over here. I know a third of you are not subscribed to my channel from my YouTube creator metrics. Do that. Ring the bell if you want to be notified when I post fresh content. Or you can support me on Patreon if you dig what I'm doing and feel like you want to support my efforts. And I will see you in the next one.